Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Now I can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Uh, Sonali, what are your hobbies?
Sir, I'm an avid basketball player, and sir, while I'm indoors, I like to write some poetry and also pursue mandala painting.
And also
Pursue mandala painting.
mandala painting. All right. Uh, now, first, a very general question. Let's say you join the civil service. Do you perceive or do you foresee any kind of gender bias in the civil service?
Sir, as an outsider, um, into the service, who's aspiring for the service, I do not see any kind of gender bias at the entry stage. For example, the recruitment is um, totally gender neutral. And so once in the service, I think as per the service conditions in list, there is no gender bias as such, but a female student may face bias when she's posted towards or when she's dealing with people at the ground because of patriarchal issues that exist in the society.
You talked about patriarchal issues. Do patriarchal issues reflect in an Indian woman's day-to-day life?
Yes, sir, I do believe that they do reflect in a woman's day-to-day life. For example, sir, if I may recollect my personal experiences, even when I was in college, there were issues like where male students could access libraries till up to 11 o'clock in the night. Female students were supposed to be in the hostel at 9 p.m. So it did affect their studies as well. And so other things, for example, if I see my mother, she's a working woman, and I do feel that sometimes there is an extra responsibility even on her, even though we try to pitch in and help, but there is some kind of extra responsibility where she is managing both her office work and even some household chores.
Uh, you belong to Delhi.
Yes, sir.
The general perception that Delhi is extremely unsafe for women. You, as a woman from Delhi, do you agree with that view?
So I think there is a general perception that Delhi has become infamous because of growing crimes against women. But sir, having said that, it is also seeing better response time with the police personnel. It is seeing better street light conditions, better facilities where women can approach if they face any kind of such issues. But unfortunately, there are some instances where some few pockets of Delhi, especially in the bordering areas, and that are supposed to be a bit unsafe for women to travel alone.
A former Chief Minister of Delhi had made a statement. I think Mrs. Sheila Dikshit had made a statement once that much of the problems of Delhi are because of the influx of outsiders, like people from UP and Bihar. Do you agree with that view?
So, I don't think that most of the problems can be attributed to migrant crisis alone. However, we do see that India follows a top heavy migration policy, where the metropolitan cities are the main incoming sources of migrants. That can lead to problems of unemployment, of slums, of squatter settlements. But to blame the entirety on migrant crisis will not be justified.
You recall an incident in Hyderabad where the people who were arrested for the rape and murder of a woman were later shot dead by the police. A lot of people hailed that decision of the then police commissioner to have shot them dead. Do you think this kind of instant justice will help in curbing crime against women?
So I don't think that instant justice, for example, encounters or shooting on the spot, is justified in a civilized society like ours because everyone should have the right to free trial, and it
No,
might
Sonali, but my question is limited. That will it somehow help in containing crime against women? That's it. Yes or no?
so I don't think so.
Why don't you think so?
So that is because I feel that the problem lies in sensitization, and the problem also lies in the which requires an attitudinal change. Instant justification or instant justice in this case will not change the structural barriers that cause these crimes in the first place.
All right. My next question, your optional was geography, as I see.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you think, can you name one or two countries which are geographically totally isolated from the rest of the world?
So one could be Australia or New Zealand, and
Because they're islands, or because you genuinely believe they are geographically isolated?
so because they're islands, and that is why they can be called geographically isolated. And sir, I believe the Arctic Circle or the Arctic Circle region can also be one.
Uh,
Antarctic Circle and even the Arctic Circle.
no, I wanted to know countries. Are the Arctic Circle and Antarctic Circle countries?
No, sir. Sorry, sir.
Okay.
Um,
Tell me two countries which are countries within countries.
so what I infer from this statement is that a country is so diverse that it itself can be described as a.
No. I meant it purely in the geographical sense that one country whose total boundary is another country.
So I'm not able to recollect. Sorry, sir.
Do you think there is any such country?
So I am sure there might be, but I'm not able to recollect because we do have phenomena of enclaves. But I'm not able to recollect any names, sir.
Have a look at the map of South Africa and Italy,
Okay, sir.
and
Yes,
you will get the answer.
yes, sir.
All right. My last two questions to you. Do you think more and more women are joining in studying engineering these days?
Yes, sir, I do believe that more women are joining and studying or pursuing STEM education these days. For example, STEM education enrollment and STEM education has increased up to 40% this year. Even the research graduates or or women pursuing research after STEM education is still low, but STEM enrollment has increased.
You're working in the private sector now, correct?
So I was working with the private sector, but currently I'm not working.
Can you, from your perception of the private sector, and because you want to join the government, in terms of systems and organization, which do you think is better?
So I do believe that there is merit to both. For example, in private sector, there is more focus on the bottom line, that is making profits, and that is why efficiency does creep in the private sector. So efficiency is there. However, we can say that the government sector has sufficient division of work or hierarchy in that sort, which leads to accountability as well. So I think a mixture of both will be a good way forward.
We use words like corporate governance, and we use words like management in government, MIG. Now, governance is going into the corporate sector, management is coming into the government. How do you foresee this kind of a thing, let's say 10 years from now? That the intermixing of governance and management in both the private and the government sector.
So I think it will become a reality from 10 years from now because as we see, the government's motto is again becoming more governance and less government. And for more governance, if it can borrow from the corporate governance structure and even the corporate governance structure can borrow from the government, it will be and can work in tandem, will be a bright future.
Thank you. General Haru.
Sonali, I read your resume and it says that you are working with one of the multinational companies. Tell me, what kind of a job were you doing as a software engineer?
So as a software engineer, I was responsible for full stack development of the payment gateway that Payee used to provide. So yes, sir.
So how interesting or how challenging was that assignment?
So because it was my very first job, I would say it was very interesting and it came with a lot of challenges as well. For example, being a startup, I was given the responsibility for a whole project to be delivered within 3 months, which I was even successfully able to do so. So it came with a very steep learning curve, and I was given a lot of responsibility right when I joined the private sector.
Yeah. So that is something so unique about MNCs that firstly, they give you a responsibility they trust you, and they expect you to deliver, which you normally end up doing because of the very conducive environment that the organization provides you, irrespective of any biases. And of course, they also look after you well in terms of the pay and other perks that they give you. And considering your background, that you have been in Delhi, you have studied there, you're from a fairly affluent family, and you were working in Bangalore. Why is that this bug of IAS and allied services has caught you?
So there were multiple reasons for my career choice. So one was basically that while working in Bangalore, that I realized that I will always, even if I grow further in the corporate sector, I will always be working with the top 100 or top 200 people and dealing with their problems. Whereas I wanted a job which will be more diverse, more challenging, and also help me play a more direct role in terms of development. And so the job satisfaction that the career service, like the civil service, will provide is something very unparalleled and which I may not get from a private sector, which is also very dear to me for any career that I choose.
Sonali, now you are into software.
Yes, sir.
Various private companies and tools of software are being used as a weapon, both when sanctions are imposed, particularly by US on other countries, which they feel they are not up to, or whom they want to teach lesson to. And one of the things that is going to really impact the countries going forward and threaten rest of the countries as well is with regards to the system of financial transactions across country in
Yes,
terms of SWIFT. So if the many banks of Russia have been denied that, and if that is going to be the trend, and if many countries have been forced to come out of Russia because US doesn't want it that way. So
yes,
if
sir.
all these organizations, private as well, and institutional organizations are, going to be used as a tool of weapon against the adversaries, what do you think will be the impact on India in particular and otherwise in general on such issues? And how do you think things will unfold going forward in creating a new world order?
Yes, sir.
I hope
Uh,
you understood the question. If there's any doubt, you please ask.
so I'm understood. Yes. So the firstly for impact on India, so I think India is already seeing some repercussions. For example, importers from India which deal with Russian imports are facing problems while getting on board financial transactions. So many of the financial transactions have been put on hold. There were newspaper reports also on the same issue. So I think India is already facing a brand. So going forward, there can also be issues where our imports from Russia or our imports from other countries that do not accept dollar as a medium of currency may get affected. Um, and so thirdly, going forward, I think the way forward here can be to push our own digital payment infrastructure also. For example, so even RBI noted that India is still in not a very bad financial predicament because it has launched its own UPI and BHIM for that matter. So, sir, if we can follow this and even get this to other countries also, it will help. And plus, sir, even a direct currency swap agreement may help in future.
Yeah, you're talking about UPI.
Yes, sir.
UPI as it stands is confined to India. It
Yes,
is
sir.
India specific. Whereas alternate system that has been developed by China, there are already, I think, over 60 countries which are on board in that system.
Yes, sir.
So, or do you think the other alternative for you is to join China in case US goes forward? I mean, it requires a pretext to put down another country, the way it has been doing in various countries, whether it was Iran, whether it was before that Iraq and other countries, and now with Russia. So, do you think it is a good option for us to cozy up to China, or we should follow an independent policy and make our own financial system robust, both financial and otherwise our strategic, standing and as dependents, more focused on our own abilities that rather than being dependent on whether it is Russia or US. Someday or the other, there will be a problem going forward. As it is, we're facing the brunt, and it can get worse as well.
Yes, sir. So I do believe that we need to have an independent stance and we need to make our financial systems more robust. And for as far as China's financial system is concerned, India should evaluate on its own merit because China is also infamous for using financial systems such as these for pushing territorial uh, aggression or for pushing its own interests in terms of BRI or in own interests such as debt trap diplomacy. So we need to evaluate that on its own merit. But sir, that goes without saying that we should also make our financial systems more robust and our own strategic autonomy with other countries more robust.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bhatia sir?
Yes, Sonali.
Yes, sir.
Recently, the government of Delhi, that is our government, by showing Delhi model, that is Mohalla Clinic, growth in the government school has won comfortably and has got landslide victory in the Punjab. So
Yes,
do you think that there will be significant growth in the Punjab once the AAP has assumed the power?
sorry, sir, I could not grasp the question, the last part.
My question is that Delhi government has shown considerable growth in Mohalla clinics and
Yes,
government schools.
yes, sir.
Same model, Delhi model, has been shown to the people of the Punjab.
Yes,
And
sir.
now they have got the power in Punjab also.
Yes, sir.
Will they be able to translate it on the ground?
Sir, I feel that Delhi government has done a lot of work in terms of health and education both. So, sir, if given the conditions and now it is in majority in the Punjab government, I think it can replicate the same model there also. Yes, sir.
Okay, recently K. Vijay Kumar, while attending the CRPF Day function, said that by 2040, there will be hardly any difference between the public security and the private security. What do you mean by this statement?
So, as far as I can infer from this statement, it means that both the public sector and private sector are now engaging with each other and both have to work in congruence. So, any threat to the public sector can emanate from the private sector as well. For example, so we see that SWIFT transactions, when they were taken out of Russia, it was affecting their national security as well. So, a threat to private sector security can translate into public sector security as well. And so the other way also is true. For example, if we do not have public sector security, ease of doing business or even private sector security can come down.
Okay. Now my next question is that in Kashmir, we are seeing a lot of killing incidents, especially of special police officers. Of course, the Article 370 has been abrogated. And recently, Home Ministry also gave a statement that CRPF will be withdrawn in next 5 years. Do you think that situation is normalizing after the abrogation of Article 370?
So we have seen positive uptrends in many of the indicators after abrogation of Article 370. For example, so terrorist activities have reportedly come down. There is less unemployment. People are getting more benefits for domicile, and people are able to even buy residential housing, and even industries are now setting up. So, sir, there is an uptrend there. But, sir, there is still a lot of scope for improvement, and hopefully, we are on the right track there.
Recently, Investor Summit was organized in Srinagar. Which all countries participated in that Investor Summit?
So, I'm not aware. Sorry, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, sir, can I ask her another question?
Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, sir.
Sonali, I am making a statement that Ukraine ignored its geographical realities, and that is the reason why it is facing what it is now. Am I right? If you think either way, you justify the answer.
I think this statement can emanate from the geopolitical theory that Ukraine actually belongs to the rimland of the countries and is, the bordering flank of the USSR, which was considered to be the heartland. And for NATO and associated Western European countries, the only way to control the heartland or the Russian heartland was through the pass between the Baltic Sea and the Caspian Sea, which passes through Hungary, Ukraine. But sir, having said that, Ukraine is an independent sovereign country, and because of that, it should be and it is free to have its own sovereign authority and determine its own foreign policies.
No. The specific question is the geography, the reality of geography.
Yes, sir.
If it had kept that in mind,
Yes,
probably
sir.
it would have not been facing the war that is facing now. So, do you agree with this statement? Why is this war started in the first place?
So the war has started in the first place because Russia felt that NATO is making inroads towards the Russian heartland, and because Ukraine just borders Russia, and Ukraine had made certain instances where it was willing to join the NATO forces. That is why the war or Russian aggression started.
Okay. You may like to be aware of the fact that there were a number of biological laboratories which have been established of the US in Ukraine, and there has been a presence of forces of NATO in Ukraine.
Yes.
Besides making those statements that it will join,
Yes,
so which was impacting directly the security.
Yes, sir.
So they ignored the geographical realities that they are bordering Russia, and it would mean a direct threat to them.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sonali, a quick feedback.
Yes, sir.
Very impressive personality.
Thank you,
The
sir.
way you come across as a person, the way you answer questions, very, very positive impression.
Thank you so much, sir.
I think overall very, very well done. I would have expected just one small little thing from you, to be a little more aware of your optional subject.
Yes, sir.
I asked you very, very basic questions. Maybe it was not part of your syllabus, but if I choose an optional, I should be aware of random sundry things as well.
Yes, sir.
Now, two countries that are within countries, one is Lesotho in South Africa and Vatican in Italy. And when I meant isolated countries geographically, I had in mind countries like maybe Bhutan or Mongolia.
Okay, sir.
An island country need not necessarily be isolated, correct?
Right, sir.
By that logic, every island country would be in isolation.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
But barring that, I think my impression is very, very positive. I think you'll do pretty well.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Hello, sir.
I just want to reiterate what Sonali sir has said. What Sunil sir has said. You are a real potential candidate. You have all the qualities that require to crack the interview. I can only wish you all the very best and be abreast with whatever is happening, particularly the latest issues that are happening both in India and abroad. All the very best.
Sir, if I may ask, so the Russian geopolitical question that you asked in the end, so I think I was not able to convey what I wanted to say properly.
You must understand what I'm saying. Like, for example, if Nepal is there, you are already landlocked country. If you are facing both two different adversaries, the best you can gain is by leveraging one against the other and getting the best out of both rather than being aligned with a particular country.
Yes,
so the moment they ignored it and they blatantly started siding with NATO countries and US in particular, and they got carried away. In fact, US coaxed them actually into doing things which no rational person would have done. And that's how they ended up in the issue where they cannot extricate, where US cannot help, NATO cannot do anything about it. And even now even if he makes a statement or if he's willing to say that he will remain neutral, it is not being taken seriously.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bhatia, sir.
Thank you, Sonali. You did well.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonali. All the best. You'll do well.
All the very best. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.